Hey everyone, Christine McKay here. I am so excited and I have to confess a little nervous because I have not done this live thing on StreamYard like this ever. So thank you for checking this out. Thank you for tuning in and all that good stuff. I'm here today to talk to you about the importance of knowing and a gnat's ass. Yes, you did hear that right, or you did read that right. Um, so I have many of you know me. First of all, I'm just honored that you are checking this out. I'm honored that you're part of my circle, and I really appreciate that, and I really appreciate you. So I launched a podcast in 2021 called In the Ven Zone. And I had wanted to do this podcast for quite a long time. I conceived of it in 2020. I put all the planning in place. I hired people to help me execute it. I did all the stuff. And I thought I knew what I wanted. And that general idea of what I wanted was I wanted to do a podcast. Now, when I'd originally conceived the idea, I had this vision of me interviewing somebody on one side of a negotiation and having conversation about what was important to that person, and then interviewing that person's counterpart essentially, and then me coming in and saying, all right, given these two positions, this is where we want to go. This is the way that you could think about negotiating it, which I still would love to do, something that incorporates that. But what we found was that it was just not very practical because it was really hard to find guests that were open to that kind of a structure, that kind of case study structure. So I abandoned it. But when I abandoned it, I wasn't clear on what I wanted to replace it with. And I wasn't clear on what I wanted outside of saying I wanted to do a podcast. So what does that have to do with negotiation, right? And sometimes some of you have listened to me talk before, and I've often said that the hardest part of every negotiation happens right between our ears, that we like tell ourselves all this garbage and baloney, and then we believe it. And so I was so fixated on launching this podcast that I was going to do it come hell or high water. But what happened is I ended up doing it in a way that was not consistent with either the vision that I had developed and then abandoned because it was not practical to execute in a timely fashion. But I didn't replace it with something and give myself the opportunity to get clear on what it was that I wanted. So what I ended up developing was on March 16th, we launched In the Ven Zone to huge fanfare and publicity and all sorts of great stuff. Got great reviews, dropped 20 episodes on the first day, dropped 2 new episodes every week after that for a number of weeks. Finally realized I was dying under the weight of marketing my podcast and no longer enjoying it. And so I moved to 1 episode a week. And then it just kept it. I'd bring on these amazing guests. And if you haven't checked out In the Ven Zone, please do so, because man, the knowledge and the nuggets that I learned on that, doing that, hosting that show were just incredible. 48 amazing guests in 47 episodes. Jillian Michaels was on the show. Scott O'Neill, who is a fellow Harvard Business School classmate and the author of Be Where Your Feet Are. Bethany Sloggett talks about how she bought a company, and when she was negotiating for the company with 4 or 5 guys in the room, she had to nurse her child. And how do you stand in your power when you're in an uncomfortable situation? Hannah Zaplatel talked about the importance of how incrementally moving somebody from where they're at to where you're trying to go, that you can't just get them to go from point A to point Z in one step. You've got to take them incrementally. Jeff Harry and Lauren Yee talked about the importance of play, and and how that matters in negotiation. Joshua Weiss, who's a professor at Harvard's program on negotiation, he talked about the importance of storytelling in negotiation. So there are just so many, and there's so many other episodes that I highly recommend tuning into it. But it wasn't fitting with what I was trying to do, and it wasn't fitting with who I was and who I am. So who the hell am I? Well, I'm the bottom thing says I'm Christine McKay, and I've been doing negotiation for almost 30 years now. Started out in international mergers and acquisitions. I've done deals that range from $1 million to $2.4 billion is my largest transaction. I've seen a lot of stuff and I've done thousands of deals. And what I want negotiation to be a topic that you are comfortable with. I want negotiation to be a conversation. I want you to be able to ask for what you want without any fear. I want you to be comfortable saying no and equally comfortable saying yes. But to do all that, you've got to know what it is that you want. Just like I needed to know what it was that I wanted out of a podcast. So I owe you all an apology because I just kind of disappeared from my podcast. I did the classic thing. So many podcasters stop recording after a certain amount of time, and then they just go away and they don't record an episode in like 90 days. Well, I did that. I abandoned the show because I just didn't know where I was taking it. It wasn't serving a purpose for me or the audience, and I wanted to reimagine it. And one of the women in my circles, Michelle Faust, who works with authors and helps people get published and helps people, create a media empire. She actually made a comment to me after having heard me speak for, I don't know, the umpteenth time. And she told me that when she first heard me, she kind of rolled her eyes and said, negotiation, I don't need that. That's just for big companies. And a lot of you in my network are big company people. You come from multi-billion-dollar organizations and you have a role to play in those organizations. And people think that negotiation is just for you. Or they think, oh, I'm just going to buy a car and I'm going to haggle the hell out of it. And that's negotiation, is haggling. I just had a call today where we're selling a company and the buyer's like, this is just like buying a car or buying a house. And I'm like, buying a company is nothing, in my opinion, like buying a car or buying a house. And if you approach them the same, you are not going to get quality results out of that. But that's what we've been taught to do. And what Michelle told me is that she rolled her eyes and thought, negotiation, this is the stupidest topic. It has nothing to do with me, is what she thought. It has nothing to do with me. And so she tuned out. After hearing me now for the umpteenth time, she actually said, Christine, negotiation is all about me. She's like, I need to understand negotiation. You made negotiation real for me, is what she said. And that's what I want to do. I want to make negotiation real for you. I want you to be fearless in asking for what you want, but I want you to be educated and armed with the information and the knowledge you need to be flexible to get what you want while giving your counterpart what they want and need too. I want you to achieve more by understanding how to negotiate from a different perspective. And that all starts with knowing what you want. Because when you don't know what you want, any road will take you there, just like it did for me with In the Ven Zone. Again, amazing show, amazing content. But it wasn't I was not clear in articulating what it was that I wanted. So now I am clear. I want to bring a specific type of show to you, a program to you. We're going to be recording and doing lives every week at this time, 5 p.m. every Tuesday. We are going to come to you live. And then we're going to take this show, and this is being broadcast on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitch. Yes, Twitch. You did hear me say that. Twitter, YouTube. It's going everywhere because I want to reach as many people. My word for 2022 is impact. And if I'm not making an impact, I need to make an adjustment. And I want to impact you in a way that helps you get more of what you want. You know, I wrote this book last year. So I launched my podcast. I wrote this book, Why Not Ask? A conversation about getting more. Grateful as heck that Jillian Michaels wrote the foreword to it. She's an amazing person, and I appreciate her very, very much. And, you know, I already know that this book is making an impact. A client just told me this afternoon that he had an offer, a longstanding, very large company, multi-billion-dollar company, has been his client for many years, but my client hadn't gotten an increase in their fees for quite some time. And so they wanted a fee increase. And, you know, the customer offered them a 20% increase. And, you know, this client was like, well, Christine says, why not ask? And if I'm clear about what I want, then I can ask for what I want, because you can't, if you think in generalities, you can't negotiate for generalities. You have to get specific. And so he got specific, and he asked for a 31% increase on his fees, and he got it because he asked. And so being clear on what it is that you want matters. Being clear on what it is that you want matters, not just in terms of what you're going to negotiate with somebody else, but what you're negotiating with yourself. I failed to be clear with myself. I failed in my negotiation with myself over my original podcast concept, and I lost sight of where I was trying to go. I lost sight of the impact that I was trying to have. And it became, for me, what was like almost every other show out there, right? It became me talking and interviewing people with great information and great content, but not in ways that was easy for you to use and easy for you to apply. I want you to be able to take information and apply it directly to what you're doing today, not what you're planning to do. I mean, it could be what you're planning to do, but I want you to be able to use it today. And so this new show, we're rebranding it. Instead of calling it In the Venn Zone, which only I really understand what Venn Zone means in the first place. And by the way, just so you know, Harvard calls the zone of possible agreement, which for me, negotiation is represented by a 3-circle Venn diagram. And the Venn zone is where those 3 circles intersect. That's the intersection of you, your counterpart, and the situation you're negotiating. And that's where agreement happens, at that intersection point. So I call that the Venn zone. But you know what? I know what that means. It means something to me, but most of you, it doesn't mean anything for. So what the heck do you care? But my book, Why Not Ask, that has more meaning. So Why Not Ask is going to be the new name for the podcast. So you'll be able to tune in for that. We're going to be doing live every week, 5 o'clock on Tuesdays, Pacific time. And then this will be put on all of the on the podcasting platforms, so you can check it out there. It'll be on YouTube, all that good stuff. And the whole idea is I'll come to you like I am today for a few minutes and share some ideas and thoughts with you. There are tons of times when there's something that happens that's a current event that I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe they did that. And I know somebody's doing that in their negotiation today. I'm going to bring that stuff to you. I want to have a conversation with you about it. I want to tell you what I see. I want to have panels on of different experts. I want to have experts come on and give you one single piece of nugget of information, and to explain how that can be translated into something critical for you from a negotiation perspective. One of them that we're kind of talking about right now is general versus specific, which my mentor Blair Dunkley talks about. You can't negotiate something that's general. You cannot take action on something that's general. It's got to be specific. specific. And so how do you do that? And so we're going to bring you a variety of different things. The month of January, we are talking all about the importance of knowing what it is that you want. We're going to talk in February, we're going to talk about negotiation basics, because even if you've negotiated like big deals and you work in one of these big organizations, it doesn't mean that you negotiate all the time. It doesn't mean that you know how to ask for what you want all the time. Heck, I'm in a negotiation right now that's kicking my butt because I'm having to learn as I go, because I'm in this situation with this particular buyer. They're behaving in a way that's completely counterintuitive and counter to anything I have ever experienced in my 30 years of negotiating. And so I'm learning something new in this specific situation, which is super exciting for me. And I want to be able to tell you that kind of stuff. So I really want to help you grow as a negotiator. I want you to ask for what you want. I want you to be fearless about it. I want you to be flexible about what it is and understanding what your counterpart needs and wants. I want you to understand how to incorporate situation into your negotiations and why that matters. And I want you to understand what it is you want down to the gnat's ass level details, because those details, the gnat's ass level details, those things that you think are little, they actually could be big to your counterpart. And if you've not spent any time thinking about it, then what will happen to you in your negotiation is what will happen to me in my podcast. I'll lose sight of what deal I was negotiating, and I'll get lost in it. And then I'll have to do a pause and reset. And that's a lot more painful than kind of figuring out how to go with that flow in the first place. So thank you so much for tuning in and listening. I cannot wait for I am so excited about 2022. So many amazing things happening. It's the year of the tiger coming up, and just grab the year by the tail and make it work for you. I hope for you that 2022 brings you more success than you ever imagined that you could handle. Stay tuned. We'll see you next week. Have an awesome week, guys, and happy negotiating. Just remember that negotiation is nothing more than a conversation about a relationship, and you cannot win a relationship. And if you text "why not ask," all one word, to 26786, I got a free gift waiting for you. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you later. Have a good one. Bye.